All right, guys. So we have some hard-hitting news here, at least hard-hitting in the pocket, literally. As U.S. consumer prices rose strongly again in May, the consumer price index surged 5% from a year ago, the highest annual inflation rate in nearly 13 years. And this is according to my favorite website, the Wall Street Journal. Okay, yeah. So this is the second straight month that we have seen historically high inflation numbers from the Biden administration, right? And guys, just so you understand the context here and why this is important, this is something that a lot of people have been warning about on the right is inflation, right? All the money that has been spent, particularly from Biden's last stimulus package, where you have unemployment, okay, keeping people out of work, or at the very least incentivizing them not to go to work, okay, and because businesses can't find workers, they have to increase their wages to attract workers, which means that they're probably going to have to increase their prices, along with the easy money policies from the Fed, okay, in which interest rates are historically low, right? It basically costs nothing to borrow money. All that money floating into the economy, right, with not enough goods and services being made to actually absorb all that money, we're starting to see some inflation. Now, to be fair to the Biden administration, last year, because of the pandemic, because of the slowdown, we did experience, a slight deflationary period. So it is not surprising to see the numbers be slightly higher, but these numbers are really getting up there. Okay, like these are some very high and somewhat concerning inflation numbers. Now, the real question is, how long is this going to last? Because the Feds, they believe that inflation is going to be transitory, right? They believe that we're going to have it for a few months, and then come this fall, it's going to ease out. But if it doesn't, they're probably going to try to increase interest rates, okay? Which could, lead to some volatility here and there in the market. But it's one of those things that is important to watch, because this does hit people in the pocket if inflation does get out of control. And it seems like the Democrats, they don't want to stop spending, okay? And they want to keep pouring money into an already red hot economy. So let's read a little bit more here about the details. U.S. consumer prices continue to climb strongly in May, surging 5% from a year ago to reach the highest annual inflation rate in nearly 13 years. The Labor Department said May's increase in consumer inflation was the largest since August 2008. The jump followed a 4.2 rise for the year ending in April. The core price index, which includes the often volatile categories of food and energy, rose 3.8% in May from a year before, the largest increase for that reading since June 1992. Prices for used cars and trucks leaped 7.3% from the previous month, driving 1/3 of the price in the overall index. The indexes for furniture, airline fares, and apparel also rose sharply in May. On a month-to-month basis, overall prices rose a seasonally adjusted 0.6%, and core prices rose 0.7%. The annual inflation measures are being boosted by comparisons with figures from last year during COVID-19 lockdowns, when prices plummeted because of collapsing demand for many goods and services. This so-called base effect is expected to push up inflation readings significantly in May and June, dwindling into the fall. Now, again, that's what I was telling you guys about. This is what the Fed expects to happen. Okay, so that's why right now, it is concerning. Okay, and it's definitely something worth talking about. This is what the media should be talking about. Okay, in regards to Biden's policies and how much more money he wants to put in the economy. But the real question in terms of whether or not we're seeing actual real inflation that we should be seriously concerned about is if it continues. That's the test. We've got 2 months in a row. If this thing keeps going into the fall like this, then we know that things are out of control. Consumers are seeing many prices climb for numerous reasons as the U.S. Economic recovery revs up. Prices for new vehicles have soared because of a computer chip shortage that has crippled car production. That in turn has boosted prices for used autos. Rental car prices have soared because companies sold their fleets when demand collapsed, along with travel during the pandemic. Airfares and hotel room rates are rebounding as consumers start traveling again. Many more companies have started passing on to consumers the higher costs they are facing for raw materials and wages. Food makers said their costs are climbing at an alarming rate, prompting them to raise some prices. Quote, the inflation pressure we're seeing is significant, General Mills Inc. Chief Executive Jeff Harmening said in a recent investor conference. It is probably higher than we've seen in the last decade. Okay, so this is, again, food. You know, we have a chief executive here basically saying, yo, this inflation is out of control. It's the highest we've seen in the last decade. He and his peers point to transportation, commodity, and labor costs all increasing at the same time. They expect the trend to continue for at least the rest of this year. As a result, General Mills, Campbell's Soup, Unilever PLC, J.M. Smucker Co., and other big food companies are raising prices. Some increases are already visible on supermarket shelves, and more are coming this summer. The upswing in prices reflects robust consumer demand boosted by widespread COVID-19 vaccinations, relaxed business restrictions, trillions of dollars in federal pandemic relief programs, and ample household savings. U.S. Gross domestic product rose 6.4% at a seasonally adjusted rate in the first quarter. Economists surveyed by the Wall Street Journal in April forecast the economy to grow at 8.1 annual rate in the second quarter, leaving it poised for its best year since the early 1980s. Yeah, I mean, look, Biden really is, he got a layup, man, from Trump. You know what I'm saying? And I've said this 1,000 times. When it comes to the vaccines, when it comes to the economy, like, the stimulus packages that were passed last year, guys, were actually necessary, right? And I'm not just saying that to be a political hack, right? To say, oh, I'm defending the Republicans of Trump. No, that was actually a time where people were out of work and we were in the middle of a pandemic and people actually needed the money, okay? Because, again, it was not their fault of their own. It was the government's fault, okay? So people needed the money. So I'm not against the stimulus packages that were passed last year. But Biden wanted to one-up Trump, okay, even though he inherited the vaccine, he inherited a red-hot economy, and he wanted to one-up with his own bill, right, his own stimulus package, in which he, again, poured, more than $2 trillion into an already red-hot economy. Now, what's happening as a result of that is that you have, again, too much money chasing too few goods and services. And prices are all rising at one time because of that. And that is concerning, right? It is concerning because you guys should expect food prices to go up. I mean, you guys have probably already seen food prices go up. Okay? A lot of us have already experienced that. But I'm telling you, they're going to keep going up, right? These executives are saying, listen, it's going to go up through the summer. Keep expecting the prices to rise. Okay? And part of the reason why is because, again, these companies are having a hard time hiring. And, again, people are ready to spend money because the economy is opening back up all at one time. Okay? You know, it just goes to show that when it came to the stimulus, the Republicans being more targeted in what they wanted to do and how they wanted to spend the money was actually the correct approach. You know, back then, you know, the mainstream media makes the Republicans look heartless because, they don't want to spend all this money that Biden wants to spend. And the American people, 70% of them agree with this stimulus package. So therefore, it's wrong for the Republicans to all vote against it. Well, like I said, sometimes the American people don't know what's the right thing, right? If you tell people, hey, we're going to send you a $1,400 stimulus check, of course all of them are going to want it. Of course all of them are going to agree with getting the money. Even though that money might not necessarily be good for the country overall, right? In the long term. I mean, look, you even got a petition out there that almost 3 million people have signed demanding $2,000 monthly stimulus checks from Congress. Okay, like people gonna look at that and say, oh, we should definitely do that. Well, no. Just because 3 million people want that doesn't necessarily make it a good thing, okay? And I think this stimulus check has made people kind of addicted to getting money from the government. So now people feel entitled to it. So they're like, oh no, we should just have a $2,000 monthly stimulus check. Again, it doesn't make it a good thing because 3 million people agree with that statement. That doesn't make it good. And see, that's why, progressives always want to talk about, well, our policies are supported by a majority of the American people. And I'm like, okay, and so what does that actually mean? Does that mean it's good? That doesn't mean it's good. Those are two different things. And again, it does sound messed up for me to say out of context, but yeah, sometimes the American people are wrong on certain issues in terms of what's actually best in the long term. That's why we have a representative government, right? It's the politician's job to actually make the right decision, right? Now, obviously, you need input from your people, right? You need to be listening to your constituents, but at the end of the day, it's their job to actually make the right decision, whether it's popular or not. And that's what the Republicans tend to do, right? That's why it's hard as conservatives to win the popular vote, because being responsible is not the popular thing. Okay. That's why it's hard for Republicans to gain ground in certain areas, right? Because everybody wants a $1,400 stimulus check. Everybody wants more unemployment. Everybody wants all of this stuff, but they don't understand that this stuff comes at a cost, right? You're going to see prices rise and it's going to be felt in the pockets. And if this inflation gets out of control, if it continues into, November, December, and the beginning of next year, there could be some serious consequences, right? Because once inflation gets out of control, it's hard to put the genie back in the bottle, right? And that can cause other issues down the line. So, in my opinion, I think that, again, there's some concern here. We won't really know until a few more months. But it looks like it, but it definitely looks like it's headed in that direction. We will see if the Feds raise interest rates. I predicted from the get-go, I was like, the Feds are capping in terms of them keeping interest rates super low for the time being. I think that they're going to definitely raise them probably by next year because they know that this is probably going to get out of control. And I think that they're definitely underestimating how much inflation we're actually going to see. But I could be wrong. They're trained economists. I'm not. So maybe they're right. Maybe this is just transitory and maybe things will return back to normal during this fall, right? So we'll see. But let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.